Hey everybody, today we're going to be showing you how super easy it is to install SuperATV's Rhino prop shafts on this Can-Am Maverick X3. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and open the door. We're going to go ahead and start removing our seat by removing the two 13mm bolts on the front. And then our 18mm nuts on the back. We'll flip our seat cushion up. Go ahead and remove our nuts. And we can grab a hold of our seat and pick it up. Just want to make sure that you reach down and pop your seatbelt plug out of the plastic. And the next thing we're going to do, once we have the seat pulled up, is remove our 16mm bolt holding our seatbelt on. Once that's removed from the machine, we can go ahead and remove the seat, and then we'll repeat the same steps for the opposite side. Next, we're going to go ahead and start removing our panels here. Let's grab a hold of them, pull them out. We'll do this for both sides. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove the two 15mm bolts securing the carrier bearing to the frame of the machine. Those will be located right here. Once you remove your side panel, you'll see your carrier. And we'll just repeat the same steps for the opposite side. Then once our bolts are removed, we're going to head up to the front and we're going to remove our prop shaft from the pinion shaft on the front differential. We're going to need a 13mm socket and a 13mm wrench. I'm going to get my wrench positioned in here on the head of the bolt. It'll sit just like this right here. And then I'm going to go around to the opposite side. I'm going to go ahead and take the nut off the bolt, and then we're going to slide the prop shaft off. So once we have our nut removed, we'll go ahead and pull the bolt out as well. There's our bolt. So then we'll just grab a hold of the carrier bearing. Slide it over. As soon as we slide that over, our prop shaft came off our pinion shaft in the front. Then we'll just need to separate our two shafts. They should slide apart. If they don't, you may have to get a pry bar in there and kind of work them a little bit, spray them down. Sometimes they can be a little bit of a pain to get apart. So as you can see, sometimes they get really stuck on the splines. We have to take a pry bar and smack it to get it off. A lot of times they'll just come right apart, but once you've got them separated, go ahead and pull your front prop out, and we'll set it aside. We're done with it. So once we have our prop slid over to where we can get to it, we're going to come up in here and we're going to remove our snap ring, then remove our bearing, and we'll just continue sliding our shaft forward. Out the front of the machine, we'll just slide it as far forward as we can on the inside, and then we'll come out here to the front. Grab a hold of it, and we'll just spin it until we can get it completely out. So the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and grab our rear prop shaft. We've already removed our snap ring from our prop shaft. You'll just wanna get a pair of snap ring pliers, go ahead and remove it and set it aside. And we'll get some brake clean and a rag. We'll go ahead and spray down the bearing surface on the prop. Make sure that we get it good and clean. Make sure it's nice and dry. Just like that. Then we'll grab our bearing. As you can see, we're running this style bearing with the SuperATV prop shaft. Then we'll go ahead and grab our green retaining compound. We'll put a good even coat all the way around the bearing surface. Then we're gonna get our prop shaft sitting straight up like this. We'll grab our bearing. We're gonna make sure that our grease ring is facing down. We're gonna take a tool here. We just got a piece of steel. It's bigger in diameter, just a hair, than the shaft itself that fits on the inner race of the bearing. I'm just gonna give it some smacks until our snap ring's exposed. Then once we have our bearing all the way down to where we can get our snap ring on, we'll slide our snap ring down. Grab our snap ring pliers. Tap it into place, make sure that it's fully seated. So then we're gonna start sliding our prop shaft back in. We'll just slide it right over top the axle in between the A-arm, rotate it around. And once we get it slid in, we'll come to the inside of the machine. Then we'll just continue sliding our prop shaft in. And once we get it slid in, we'll slide it back forward just a little bit and slide it back to the rear. And then we're gonna come through the rear of the machine. So now we're gonna grab a hold of our rear prop shaft and we're gonna slide it on to the output shaft on the transmission. We wanna make sure that the fixed yoke here on the prop shaft is sticking straight up because we're gonna orient the front 180 degrees opposite from the way that we orient our rear. Once we have it started, we can go back to the inside. So we're just gonna grab a hold of our prop shaft. Slide it straight back. So we're gonna go ahead and put a couple pumps of grease into our rear splines just to help us get the prop shaft on a little bit easier. So we've got our prop slid all the way back into position where it's gonna be. Then we're gonna go ahead and grab our front prop right here on this grease zerk. We're just gonna pump a couple pumps of grease in it. That's just gonna make it all slide together a little bit easier for us. We'll go ahead and remove our bolt out of the front prop shaft here as well. Slide it out. We'll keep it handy whenever we need it. Then we're gonna go ahead and reinstall our front prop shaft. And remember, on the rear prop shaft, we had it straight up and down right here on the fixed end. So we're gonna rotate it like this, so that way our fixed ends are sitting like this whenever we get this installed. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of feed this prop shaft up there to where I can get a hold of it. And then we'll go up front and we'll reach through and grab a hold of it and get it slid onto the pinion shaft on the front diff. Once we have our front prop slid into place, go ahead and get our bolt through. Then we got it in there. We'll go to the other side and we'll put our nut on it so that way it can't come out. Then we're gonna head back inside. We'll go ahead and get our props connected. Both the props are slid together there. And we'll just go ahead and kind of wipe off a little bit of where the lower portion of our carrier is gonna ride. Then we're gonna make sure that the lower portion of our carrier looks like this. So this side right here, the non-machine side, is facing towards the rear. Your grease ring's riding here, and then the cutout part for the bearing to ride is in the front. And we'll just pick our props up. Slide it into position, and we'll go ahead and put some blue Loctite on both of our mounting bolts that are included in the kit. Let's go ahead and get our bolt started. We'll just want to get them hand started in there. For both sides, so we'll go around to the opposite side. So before we fully tighten it, we want to go back to the rear and make sure that our prop shaft's covering all the splines. And we'll come up here and we'll look at our front splines, and it looks like we got all of them covered as well, so I think we're good where it's at. So we're going to go ahead and start tightening down our carrier bearing bolts. So now we're going to double check it. Looks like our grease ring is lined up good. Looks like our carrier's lined up nicely. Our bolts are straight across from each other. So we're gonna be ready to put the housing cap on the top portion of our carrier bearing. The machine side and the SuperATV should be facing forward. So we'll go ahead and get it laid into place just like that. We'll get our Loctite and put a little bit of blue Loctite on each of our bolts. Get them slid into place. Get them started by hand. We'll go over to the opposite side. We'll do the same thing. Get our 2 bolts started over there. And we'll go ahead and get our Allen wrench just to make sure that they're good and started. Looks like we got them both good and started on both sides. So then we'll go ahead and fully tighten them. And whenever you tighten these, you want to try to tighten them in an X pattern. And the front side on the opposite side. Then we'll just go back through, double check them all. Unfortunately, with the X3, you're not going to be able to get a torque wrench in there. So you're just going to have to tighten everything up real good. I like to use an Allen wrench. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that our bolts holding the carrier bearing to the frame of the machine are torqued to 45 foot-pounds. We've already done this. So we're gonna grab our grease gun and put about 4 pumps into the bearing. We'll go ahead and fully tighten our bolt up front, our pinch bolt for our prop shaft, reinstall our panels and our seats, and that's all there is to it. And there you have it. That's how super easy it is to install SuperATVs, Rhino prop shafts, and carrier bearing in this Can-Am Maverick X3. For more information on our prop shafts or any of SuperATV's great products, feel free to give us a call at 855-743-3427 or check us out online at superatv.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.